myself, collaborating with each other. I really appreciate it. I've seen some pretty awesome things. Everyone's leveraging technology. We're learning some new tricks. Clearly, Teams is something we're learning right now. So let's get started. Oh, also, as Annette said, can we refrain from questions during the presentation? But I'm welcome to answer them at the end. Put them in the chat box during the presentation. Totally fine. Okay. Welcome to Start of School 2021. The Start of School webpage can be reached at this link. This year, we're focusing on data connectivity, LEA, faculty and staff data collection, early access to student data, no shots, no school, as well as transportation. There are a number of other start of school sessions this week, as you can see here. I'll also provide these slides to you so you can review this, but this was also sent out in a larger email during the week. Annette, is my screen going out?
Nope, your presentation is doing just fine.
Okay, thank you. Okay, there's also a 2020 Kid Talk on Thursday, August 13th. This is an extension of the Bridge to High School program. If you want more information on this, you can email Janae. Her email and phone number is here. And again, you'll have these slides so you can read through that part and use it as needed for your LEA or yourself. So navigating the enrollment audit. Everyone here should be a returning enrollment audit POC. If not, that's fine, but the new session is later this afternoon. If it is the case that you are in this session and you'd rather be in the new session, just email me and I'll put you in there because it's a bit different because they're starting from a cleaner slate. So our agenda will consist of opening, the purpose and scope of the enrollment audit, our enrollment audit process, as well as COVID-19 updates, the enrollment audit phases, support systems that we provide to you guys, and Q&A at the end, as well as next steps and closing remarks for myself. So the objective of this session is for you to understand the purpose and scope of the enrollment audit, the process and timeline of the enrollment audit, as well as preparation necessary for a successful enrollment audit for your LEA. So what's new for you guys this year? I'm sure a number of you have already heard, and I've had one-on-one discussions with a number of you about the Efile for remote auditor review. So for this school year, for the fieldwork phase, we would allow LEAs to select the traditional option or an Efile option to submit your binder, so to speak. I also have some details as to what that binder will look like this year, and I won't get into it right now, so I'll wait later into the presentation. We also have expanded the use of the OSCE Residency Verified tool. So it will now include newly enrolled students, pre-K3 students, as well as pre-K4 students. I've gotten some awesome feedback from LEAs saying that this helped them a lot this year, having to collect less documentation for students. So to lessen the burden on you guys, we'd like to do. And there are updated standards for auditors, meaning that we have made it so the auditors are just looking for, they're staying within statutory requirements, meaning that there are fewer rejections. So literally what we're required to do is all that we're trying to do this year. We know it's been a tough year and you guys have been great at communicating with me and letting me know where your barriers are and when you need assistance. So please keep doing that. I want to get through this with you and make it a successful enrollment audit. So the 4 things every enrollment audit POC should know is that the objective of the audit is to accurately determine the enrollment of all students funded by the district. And that funding is determined by our Uniform Per Student Funding Formula, UPSFF. I never say it out loud like that, so excuse me. And 2 components of the audit are to verify residency, as well as to do an audit of students with IEPs, aka the child count. The enrollment audit for 2021 will start on October 5th, as it does most years, unless there's like some weird weekend date, date mix-ups. Not mix-ups, but as last year it was October 7th. Okay, COVID updates. Oh, sorry, guys. COVID updates. Since March, we have taken the initiative to assist you guys in dealing with the public healthcare emergency by, sorry, the screen is acting weird, by expanding the use of electronic documentation submission, which allows enrolling persons and LEAs to social distance. We've expanded the use of the OSCE residency verification tool, as we discussed earlier, made parallel adjustments to the DC DMV document expirations. We know that the DMV has been closed or restricted or what may have you. So just making sure enrolling persons can still use those documents and get their students enrolled. We've added unemployment benefits as a valid supporting document, because a number of parents and enrolling persons have lost employment. So this is a way that if they don't have their pay stubs, they are still able to get those students enrolled. We've also released remote home visit guidance, which everyone I know was like, well, what is home visits going to look like? I'm glad we got that out and we're able to help you guys get that ball rolling. And we also allowed for the use of lease proof of payment explanation letter. So if the amount on the lease does not exactly match the proof of payment, that would be okay this year. So I think that helped out a lot of people. I know a number of LEAs that said that was useful for them. So good. Okay, the purpose and the scope of the enrollment audit. So why do we do the enrollment audit? By DC code, we have to annually collect enrollment audit counts for residents attending all DC public schools whose tuition or education or programs is funded by the district. We are also required to identify any material weaknesses in the enrollment audit systems, procedures, and methodology at the LEA level, which is why I so appreciate your engagement, your feedback. As you guys know, we have the LEA working group, so just trying to improve this process year over year in a very collaborative way. And this piggybacks off of our last slide, where it is the purpose of the audit to administer public education funding equitably using the UPSFF formula, to calculate the number of students enrolled in DC public schools, and to validate residency for students enrolled in DC public schools and public charter schools. The process. So there are 6 phases in the enrollment audit process, as well as 3 different certification dates within that. So our first phase is what we are in now, is the pre-audit prep. This is when LEAs ensure demographic and enrollment data are error-free. There are our trainings, which is what we're having right now, and data freeze, which is when LEA confirms all students are enrolled in their SIS by 4 p.m. Our fieldwork phase is when auditors review residency documentation for each school. Issue resolution is when you can come back as an LEA and say, hey, I know this student was enrolled, but maybe their documentation isn't correct. So that is opportunity for you to, I guess, plead your case. I don't like to say it like that, but that's how it is to get funding for that student. Our final appeals is your opportunity for LEAs to confirm district residency. So to give us that updated proof or a DCRV form that will let you get funding for that student. And finally, reporting is when we published our enrollment audit report of the audited students for the school year. So phase 1, our pre-audit data prep. So this is when LEAs make sure that all students are stage 5 enrolled and they are in their SIS. They secure a place for OSCE auditors on site to do a scheduled visit, but also keeping in mind that we have the e-file option this year, and prepare and organize residency documentation for all students enrolled and attending as of October 5th. So these are our stages of enrollment. A student an enrolling person puts in an application to attend. Notification of available slot is sent out. Acceptance of that slot is key and is made by the enrolling person within a timely manner. registration of the student in the SIS by the LEA, and then receipt of educational services. So our binder preparation. There must be 3 separate binders for the enrollment audit. That binder is pre-K and pre-K4 students, an adult students binder, a K through adult students binder, and a non-public students binder. All enrolled students' residency forms should be alphabetical by last name and at least 3 binders, as I stated. And there should be the DCRV and then the supporting documentation following the DCRV for each student. And none of the documents should be stapled. And that is for purposes of organization and helping the auditors get through this in a clean and timely fashion for you guys so you can get funding for your students. So the e-file preparation. So if your LEA does opt into doing the e-file for the fieldwork phase, you will organize the DCRV forms and all applicable residency verification documentation in a PDF file. It cannot exceed 15 gigabytes. And it should look as seen here. So it'd be your school folder. Within that folder, 3 separate binders, but folders. And then students alphabetically with their DCRV and their supporting documentation following. If the enrollment audit population exceeds the file size limits, because I know there are a number of LEAs that are super large, you can break the group in half alphabetically, A through M, N through Z. You can email me to get some more clarification on that if necessary, no problem. In each student folder, the supporting residency documentation should immediately follow the DCRV form. I know I keep saying that, but I just really want to reiterate it to make sure this process goes as smooth as possible. And all files should be submitted by October 15th, 2020. So also keep in mind, if you do opt into this, you will still get a fieldwork review date. And that is what would initiate your phases of issue resolution. So yes, everyone has to have it in by October 15th. And up until October 15th, you can edit your student folders. But after that date, you would receive a fieldwork date, which is when the auditor would go in, review those documents, and initiate your issue resolution. These 2 trainings. So back in March, we had residency verification training. Erin did that. Awesome. There were a number of them, so I hope everyone was able to attend one. Today, we're doing our enrollment audit and child count training, which is July 2020. Coming at the end of August will be the EACCA training by CIO and the head of school Cert training end of September, early October. Certification. So data freeze, as we know, October 5th. Let's just put this in our heads at 4 p.m. The head of school must certify that data by Friday, October 9th between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. Between the data freeze and certification, an LEA should review all of the data in the EACCA, which is the Enrollment Audit Child Count application. I think everyone's returning, but just want to make sure that's clear. Confirm that all students attending the school are stage 5 enrolled and accounted for on their roster. And if it does not reflect what is on your roster, submit an OST ticket to CIO no later than October 8th with the name, USI, and date of birth of the student. Phase 3 is our fieldwork and document review phase. So this is when you guys will receive a date from us. You'll get it in late August as to when your audit would happen, when your document review would happen. Auditors would visit the school or conduct a remote enrollment audit on that date. As stated before, our residency documentation is our DCRV and our supporting documentation. This is key, and the documentation must be complete, legible, and valid. Please make sure that you guys or whoever's working on your team are looking at these documents in real time, not letting consistent errors build up. I know a number of LEAs do internal audits. That's really useful. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, you catch it before we do. So I think that's an awesome idea. So our sampling. So 100% of DCRVs will be reviewed, although only 20% of a random sample of supporting residency documentation will be reviewed by the auditors. Oh, sorry. 100% of supporting residency documents of non-public students will be reviewed, and 100% of supporting residency documents of enrolled students pre-K3 and pre-K4 will be reviewed, who are not OSSI residency verified. Okay. The initial random sample size for residency supporting documents reviews is 20%. OSSI residency verified are excluded from the initial random sample. These are students who are receiving SNAP, TANF, Medicaid benefits, wards of the district, McKinney-Vento, and verified using the OTR validation system. If 5% or two students if 5% or two students, whichever is greater, of the initial random sample size fails to have accurate residency supporting documentation, OSSI auditors will move to an immediate 100% review of the potential sample population. So this kind of breaks out what this would look like. So you can get a picture of, what you potentially be getting reviewed. So let's say you start with 200 students. They're unaudited at this point, but your head of school certified them as of October 9th. There are 15 OSSI subsidency residency students, 10 McKinney-Vento, 2 wards of the state, 5 OTR, that's 32 students. So those 32 OSSI residency verified students would not be in your sample population. So you can just subtract them off of the 200 students. So your potential sample population would only be 168 students. 20% of that population would be 34 students. So your initial sample fail rate would be 1.7 students. Issue resolution. 1 second, you guys. Okay, schools can view the results from the review date 3 business days after the start date. I also want to say this is the timeline from last year, and I'll give a chart depicting what this looks like with actual dates. Schools must respond to any rejected residency decisions within 5 business days of receiving their results. If a school does not attempt to resolve the findings during the issue resolution, the student page will lock and the LEA will not participate in final appeals. And you don't want to get to that point where you're not receiving funding for the students. So really be on top of this, actively be checking the EACCA, honestly, all the time. Just be really proactive so you can make sure you get the funding, get your students in school, and just get them the services that they need for the school year. So this is a potential timeline right here. So for example, if your on-site review date was November 2nd, then auditors respond by Thursday, November 5th. The final day for you to respond would be November 13th. And the auditors will review again. Oh, sorry, I have to update. I'm sorry, guys. This is missing. Sorry, that's not right. It would be the 23rd, but I feel like that falls on like Thanksgiving or something, but holidays aren't counted in here. So the auditors will review around November 23rd, and then a final appeal submission would be by December 4th. Second certification. So the second certification finalizes the child count numbers for students with disabilities and confirms the demographics of the LEA school population. It is not a certification of residency status. It is completed by the head of school Friday, November 13th between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. And again, if you're confused as to what the head of school certification looks like, there's a training on that at the end of September, early October. So don't stress that. To certify accurate demographic information, LEAs must submit all OST tickets by October 30th and update information in their source systems, your SIS, no later than Thursday, November 12th at 4 p.m. Phase 5, final appeals. So LEAs must submit all requests with supporting residency documentation for final appeals by 11:59 December 4th. OSSI will review the residency documentation prior to scheduling an in-person appeal, which won't be in person this year, so appeal. If accepted and approved, a final appeal will not be scheduled. LEAs will be notified if OSSI will hear the requested final appeal no later than December 8th. To complete a final appeal, the LEA must have participated in the issue resolution phase, uploaded residency documentation at the time of the final appeal request. If an LEA does not participate in the issue resolution phase, to resolve the residency finding, the student record is locked in EACCA, which means it can't be updated. The student is considered unverified, and the LEA does not receive UPSFF funding for that student. So again, please be on top of this. Please make sure you're updating your students' information, being proactive and making sure the documentation is accurate during this process. Third certification would come next, which is December 16th between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. by your head of school. This determines the final audited enrollment for the school year for your respective LEAs. And phase 6, you guys don't really have to worry about this. This is what, for me. This is when we publish the final report of the audited students for the year, and it identifies final certified enrollment count. Unverified, sorry guys, unverified residents. So at the inclusion of the audit, an LEA may have unverified residents for which the LEA does not receive UPSFF and are not enrolled non-residents with tuition agreements. Starting this year, the LEA will be required to resolve the documentation issues for these unverified students. Specific guidance and procedures can be found in the EACC Handbook. Support systems. So data questions or technical assistance during this process. So for instance, there's a student that you said you just know they're an English learner, but it's not coming across as that, should be addressed using the OSSI support tool, which is submitting an OST ticket, which would then go to CIO. You can also use the enrollment audit policies that we've put out there. And if you have any questions, email OSSIenrollmentaudit@dc.gov. Aaron, who is our Director of Enrollment and Residency, his email is there. I'm sure you all are familiar. Or myself, you can email me directly as well. Also, if you need to grab time on my calendar or whatever works for you, if it's just a phone call, don't feel bad about giving me a ring. That's fine as well. And here are some resources and documents that will help you through the process. The EACC Handbook, of course, OST for data issues, the LEA data collection template, Unified Data Error Guide, and entry and exit codes. Here are some key terms you guys can review. They should be familiar. This is kind of how you'll understand what you'll potentially be audited. Q&A, what we've all been waiting for. I'm sure you guys have a ton of questions. So, yeah, sorry, you guys. Okay, Aaron and Annette, can you guys unmute, please?
Yes,
Okay.
we're here.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, here.
Okay, Aaron, I see you started answering some questions. So are there any outstanding right now in the chat?
Yes, I believe Kirza wants to talk more about the unverified residence section because that's new. I think that's the only thing. There's a bunch of new ones coming in now, but that's the last one that's not been addressed already.
Okay, can you take a stab at that one while I look at the new ones, please?
Yeah, can you go back to the unverified residence slide and I can talk through that?
Yep. There you go.
Yeah, so in the guidebook specifically, there is a step-by-step process on how to resolve your unverified residents. Essentially, at the end of the audit, if you have unverified residents left over, technically you have not completed your responsibility in verifying the residency of those students in order to attend your school. So if they are still enrolled and still attending, there are required next steps in order to resolve that unverified residency. Ultimately leading to a home visit or remote home visit as a final option. But that is essentially what that process is going to look like. Tirza, did you have a follow-up question on there? And I think I can unmute you if that's helpful.
No, that's helpful. So essentially, if a student is no longer in attendance and they were found unverified even before the process started, we would essentially have no next steps after the formal enrollment audit is closed out. Is that correct?
That is correct. In some cases, the LEA is continuing to serve these students that are unverified, and so we have required next steps in those cases. But if they're not attending, there is no next steps for you.
Cool.
Tirza asked how many items in this presentation are actually new for 2021. I believe the three major ones are the expansion of OSSI Residency Verified, the e-file for submitting your field work, and the unverified residents.
Yep. What else? Someone
Go ahead.
Someone asked earlier, and to make sure it does not get lost, are there new entry exit codes? Not. Go ahead.
I'm going to mute myself so I don't interrupt.
Right, as of right now, I do not believe so. I can verify for you. And that was Susan and who else asked? Julie. So I will verify that for you, and I can send a follow-up email. Will all unverified students be subject to an investigation? Aaron, can you come back on, please?
Michaela Cook, no, because we don't need to do an investigation on these students because they haven't been verified as residents by the LEA. So that is why we are requiring this follow-up to complete that. Because what happens is a number of these students are actually not non-residents. They are residents. It's just that the LEA hasn't completed their due diligence in collecting the documentation. So we want to shift that back to the LEA instead of it becoming an investigation.
Okay. There was mention earlier of an October 8th deadline. What was it for? I believe you're referring to the data freeze on October 5th. Does that address your question?
No. So earlier on in the presentation, there was something mentioned about October 8th and having to submit something, a list or a roster of students who didn't appear. So it's very early on in the presentation.
I'm not following. Hold on.
Yeah, so October 8th is your last day to make any changes in your SIS to be reflected for the October 9th certification. October 8th is also the deadline. If you are missing any students on your roster, you have to submit a ticket by October 8th in order to follow up through the amending your student roster process. There's very few LEAs have had to do this in the past. We do have a very formal process. If you miss someone entirely on your roster, you have to have a ticket in by October 8th in order to have any chance of adding them back in. And that is in the handbook as well.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, as far as any of the handbook questions, Annette sent the email out. I see a couple of questions referring to the handbook. Okay, awesome. Any other questions? If we do not choose to do e-binders, then the process is as usual. Yes, that is correct. Yes. You're welcome. Also, if you think of something after the meeting, email me. That's fine. We can set up some time to chat. That's totally okay as well. Okay. I don't believe anyone mentioned any dates were incorrect. Aaron, can you get on, please?
Yeah, I don't remember that either.
Yeah.
Do you remember what your
Yeah, so there seemed to be some hesitation around the issue resolution response time slide. So slide 34 about a date
it was
conflicting.
No, it wasn't conflicting. It was just a number was left off of it. It was supposed to be the 23rd, and it was just a 2.
Okay, yeah, that's what I mean. We already received a copy of the presentation. So I'm asking if we'll get a version that's edited with that, or will you send something that kind of clears up this particular slide?
I said I was going to resend the slides out at the close of the meeting.
Thank you.
Jessica, yes, I had put up, there is a specific way to name the files. I'll pull it back up so you can see it. If you do the e-binder. And also you will get the slides as well. So can the residency binders for on-site review be divided alphabetically? I mean, yeah. I mean, if it's overflowing the actual binder, yes. If it can't physically fit in there, that's how it's been done in previous years. Aaron, please verify.
Sorry. Can the residency binders for on-site review be divided alphabetically? Yes, that's right. So like, I think, Crystal, if I understood your question, you're asking, can it go like one binder is A through C, the next binder is D through G? That's perfectly acceptable.
The e-files will be uploaded to Box. Everyone, the handbook and the presentation. Aaron, if you want to speak to this, someone said, what is the date of the most current version of the handbook?
So there's only one version, and it's July 17th, 2020. And that sent it out to everyone that had registered. It'll also be available on the website, and we'll send out reminder emails for it. But there's only one version available.
And there are some people today who joined who are not on the official registration list. Maybe your colleague or somebody forwarded you the link to join this meeting today, which is great that you've joined, but we do not have your email address on file, so we are unable to send you follow-up materials. So if you joined today but did not register in QuickBase for this training, if you could just put your email in the chat box, that would be helpful. I see some names, but not emails. Beata Clark, Ahmad Hamed, Eric Block are a few. I'm trying to go through and take attendance. Want to make sure you get follow-ups materials.
Those are all people from our team.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
That makes sense then.
You're good there.
Got to get to know my Aussie colleagues.
Yeah.
So if you did not get the email from me with a copy of the handbook earlier this morning, that means your email was not in our registration system. So if you did not receive that email, please put your email in the chat box and we will make sure your email is added to the list of those who attended today.
Yes, Aaron answered about the opt-in date. I stated it during the presentation as well. The date would be forthcoming. It would be towards the end of August, but there isn't a definitive date just yet. Please be on the lookout for the guidance. And opt-in meaning opting into using the e-file for your audit. You're welcome. Awesome.
Also, a few more names. I don't have emails for Zayara Riley, Jamala Smith, and Geraldine Alvarez. If you're Aussie people, don't worry about it, but if you're with an LEA, please put your email in the chat box.
So Juanita asked, opt-in, is it all or nothing? Juanita, can you unmute? I think I understand what you're saying. Like, does the entire LEA have to opt in to do e-file? But I want to be clear.
Yes, good morning, Diamond. No, so what I mean is for the residencies that we usually get from the direct cert, do they have to be e-filed or can we just do e-file for other proof of residencies?
So it has to be fully for a school, or so you can only do like pick e-file for the school or the whole LEA. You can't do it within the school. Does that answer your question?
No, I'm talking about the process itself. It would, for example, Appletree, if I wanted to do the traditional in-person, would it have to be for the entire verified enrollment, or could it just be for just the other proofs outside of the direct cert? Because you guys get that information already. Do we have to e-file those, or can we just e-file? Can we just do e-file for the other documents?
Oh, you're saying, so if a student is Aussie residency verified, do you have to provide their supporting documentation?
Right.
If you collect it, yes, but you know, it's on the LEA if they want to go further than Aussie residency verified to collect that documentation.
Well, in the past, we've had to, we're preschool, so in the past, we've had to also verify the direct cert. But now, because everything has been done electronically because of COVID, I'm asking, do we have to go back and verify those documents, or no, just submit the documents for, say, somebody using car registration and driver's license or pay stub for anything other?
Eric, can you step in, please? I don't think I'm understanding her quite right.
So a couple of things that I heard there. So just want to clarify, it's not direct cert for residency. It's always the Aussie Click residency application. So you shouldn't do residency off of the direct cert list. So just want to make sure. I think people use those words interchangeably, so just wanted to clarify. Right. So if you have a student that is you're collecting the DCRV and the supporting residency documents, and then you have another student where you're only required to do the DCRV because we have the residency verified through another partner agency. You can't choose one of those students to be the e-file and the other not to be. They would both have to be e-file, or they both would not. It's I think that's where I'm saying at a school level. So if all of each of your campuses would need to decide which way you were going to do that.
Okay.
So we could break it up at the school level but we can't break it up beyond that. So we couldn't pick and choose which students we took through the e-file versus reviewing in person.
Gotcha. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Aaron. Alan asks, how should we communicate the e-file decision to OSSI? There will be correspondence sent out to you guys as to when you would have to make a decision to opt in, how you opt in. All of that is forthcoming. That is not set in stone yet, so you wouldn't have to worry right now.
Alicia, do you want to talk about your question? I think you have concerns around your access to systems.
Yes, I was just, it's Alicia, by the way, but I was just saying
Lisa,
I was just bringing, I think we've talked about this offline also, just that sometimes OSSI systems are set up like the data manager is the only person who has access to this particular system, but larger LEAs have multiple parties involved in particular processes. So I just wanted to flag that in the event that, like, you know, only our data manager or our assist manager has access to Box, and then, but that's not actually the person that's involved with the day-to-day collection of residency documents. So then that might pose an issue. But I think you actually answered the question because you said you're going to set up LEA POCs. So then hopefully we won't have that issue. I was just bringing that up.
Yeah, no, that's a good flag, and I'm sure other people were probably thinking the same thing. The Box system is certainly set up at the LEA level. For this process, we will actually set up structures at the school level, and we will have a different point of contact set up for those, specifically for the enrollment audit. So that would be you and potentially whoever else on your team that you need to have access to that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes. Kara, I believe I'm saying it right, wanting to know that you guys could create an electronic signed DCRV form for parents. Everyone, hold on. Aaron, can you speak to whether the DCRV will be one file and then the supporting documentation one file within a student folder with one box?
No, they would be both the DCRV and the supporting documents together in one single student file. If you need changes to that, you can reach out to us and we can discuss them, but currently it's set up as both of those documents being in the student file.
Thank you. And Julie, yes. Michaela, can you hold on? Yeah, one file, Michaela, as Aaron just stated.
One folder. I think she's asking what they have asked for their specific requirements, where it's a student level folder, and that is correct, which I think will make them very happy.
Yes, agreed. Okay. All right.
Yeah, here's I think a similar question. So I guess it would have benefited for us to put one more picture in here of the actual student folder, but if you were to click on that student's name, inside would be essentially 2 documents. One would be the DCRV, the other would be the supporting documents in that student folder.
Okay, are there any more questions?
Julie, yes, you will need to upload all of your documentation into the e-filing. We're not going to take just the sample. We would need all of it in case the sample was not successful in the review. That way we don't have to do a follow-up with you. So it would be 100% of the DCRVs, and then all of the students that you require supporting documents for should have those supporting documents in there.
Okay, you guys, if there are any more questions, you can email myself or Aaron or the enrollment@dc.gov email address, whichever works for you, as a follow-up. So forthcoming, there will be guidance on the e-file as far as when you would have to opt in, and just reiterating what the requirements are. And the handbook is already out there. And just let me know any other way that I can support you and help you in this effort. Again, we understand what's going on right now. We understand that this is a time we haven't experienced before. So please let us know what you're dealing with and how we can assist you. Aaron, did you want to say anything?
No, thanks everyone for coming in. Michaela, your final question there, that's correct. You could split it up into 3 files if you wanted to, DCRV proof 1 and proof 2. That'd be acceptable. No, we don't have anything else to add. I imagine a lot of you will have follow-up questions as we get farther along on this, but I think the thing to take away from today is to just think about which process you want to follow, because we want to have those decisions finalized in August so that we can set up your fieldwork schedule and we can plan accordingly. So think about how you're collecting your documentation now, if you're going to be able to participate in the e-file process, which is our preferred one, but obviously we will support you if you're doing an in-person one, and thinking through what that looks like. But we'll need to do that so we can get you all your fieldwork schedules early so that we can all plan and have that run successfully.
Thank you guys so much for attending. Thank you, Aaron and Annette, for supporting me. Have a good week. Have a great week, actually. And I will see you guys later.